Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Marek, Kowalkiewicz. Thank you for having me today. We live in interesting times. We live in times where the way we live, work, and think has completely changed when you compare it to what was happening 20 years ago or so. Just think about it, the way we live these days. 20 years ago, if you wanted to travel around the world, you would have to go to a travel agent and receive a lot of help with booking your flights, accommodation, finding out what attractions are available to you. These days, provided soon we can travel, you would be able to just pull out your phone and plan everything using that device that you have in your pocket. The technologies have changed everything there. The way we work, 20 years ago, if we wanted to have a successful career, we would typically have to work for a large corporation. These days, as an individual, we can be offering services all around the world thanks to the digital platforms, and we could be competing with large organizations. And the way we think 20 years ago, we would mostly trust brands. These days, we don't trust brands, we trust 5-star ratings given to people we don't know or organizations we don't know by people we don't know. And we're absolutely fine with that. That's the beauty of the digital economy. There are a lot of challenges that are emerging with the digital economy, but there are also a lot of opportunities, and I tend to be an optimist. And today I would like to focus a bit more on the optimistic side, on the opportunities for the digital economy, as well as the difference between digitizing and digitalizing your business. Well, let me start by showing you an email exchange I had with one of my students about a year ago. This student, his name is Matt, asked me for a meeting. And I responded by saying, sure, absolutely happy to meet with you to talk about your potential future opportunities. And I asked Amy from my team to help schedule this appointment. Amy and Andrew are two of my team members that are helping me with scheduling those appointments. Amy responded a few minutes later saying, absolutely, Marek, happy to set it up. This is the suggested time slot. She also sent an email to Matthew saying, Matthew, this is the time, 28th of February at 9 a.m. where you and Marek could meet. I saw that email exchange and I asked Amy to keep my Wednesday, 28th Feb, free of meetings. To which Amy responded by sending an email to Matthew once again, but now suggesting March the 6th at 2 p.m. And Matthew responded to Amy saying, hey, next Wednesday at 2 p.m. would work well for me. Amy responded a few minutes later. It's a very efficient exchange of emails. Amy responded a few minutes later saying, sure, I'll go ahead and send out an invitation for Wednesday, March the 7th. Looks like a typical exchange of emails between a professor and a student that involves an assistant, but there's a twist to this story. And the twist is that Amy is not human. Amy, as well as Andrew, are algorithms that I hired for that particular task of helping me set up appointments with students. I pay Amy and Andrew a few dollars a month, and all they do is just attend to those emails. This is not future, this is not science fiction, this is what's already happening. So we live in this world where algorithms are among us. There are corporations, there are humans, there are algorithms, and we all create and exchange value. And if you think you haven't interacted with this type of algorithms, think again. Quite possibly last time you bought a book or went into one of the auction sites online, you have bought something from an algorithm. There's a lot of bots that are sitting there and providing value by trading with us humans and often between one another as well. So our world is becoming increasingly automated. But we need to start thinking about this automation of the world using proper frameworks. We tend to think about automation as a binary concept. Something is either automated or not, but that's not exactly true. There's a whole spectrum of possibilities of automation, from a thing that's completely human delivered to something that's completely automated. And so you could think about this world in a similar way. Some of us think about automated vehicles. There are 6 levels of vehicle automation, from level 0, where we drive the vehicle ourselves and there's no support, no automated braking, no cruise control, nothing like this, all the way to level 5, which is an autonomous car where we don't even have to be inside the vehicle. Think about work automation in the same way, from level 0, no automation, all the way to level 5, autonomous work. Now the interesting part is it's very, very, very hard to find examples of no automation these days. Practically everything that we do has some level of support by technology. Similarly, it's very, very, very hard to find purely autonomous work. A purely autonomous work would really mean an autonomous organization, one that doesn't really need humans to deliver value and interact economically with other businesses and humans. We see a lot of those levels in between, level 1 all the way to level 4, as those levels of automation that we interact with. But when you think about it, when you think about your own organization and what activities are at what level of automation, you need to really make sure that you're dealing with them, by recognizing the level they're on. If you have something that's, say, level 2, partial work, but you treat it as level 4, human monitored work, you're going to be disappointed. And even worse so, if something is level 3, human approved work, which means that it will deliver the outputs, but a human needs to approve it. But you treat it as autonomous work, you don't approve it, you just let everything be delivered to customers or whoever those results are delivered to, that might lead to all sorts of troubles. It's very important for us to think about those work automation levels and really identify where we are with all sorts of activities that we're automating inside our organization. But this is automation. This is taking your organization, your activities as they are, and it's making them faster, perhaps cheaper, leaner, more consistent, and so on. But it's still the same thing, just automated. It is what I call digitization. But there is a world of digitalization as well, which is much more than that. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to cover that space in this presentation. But before I do so, I wanted to tell you a tiny bit about the 3 types of economies that my group, the Center for the Digital Economy, is researching. There is an economy of cooperation, a concept that we know if we studied business in 1980s, 1990s, perhaps the early 21st century. It's the economy where scale is important. If we produce something, we want to produce as much as possible of that one thing. It's an economy where cost efficiency is important, and it's an economy where organizations are really good at analyzing everything that they do. But in the past 20 years, we started to see an emergence of economy of people. An economy of people is one that focuses on mass personalization. So not just mass scale, but really looking at your individual customers and thinking, can I, at scale, deliver products or services that are personalized to those individual customers? Those organizations are revenue resilient, which means they look for opportunities to create new ways of generating value, new ways of generating revenue. And finally, they are design intensive, which means they don't just analyze the world, they try to create the future. They design futures and then they try to effectively deploy them, create new products and services, push them to the market, see what happens. If something's wrong, they reimagine them, they create a new version of a product or a service, and so on and so on. And then we see an emergence of economy of algorithms. This is a relatively new phenomenon where algorithms are able to behave in ways that humans or organizations would behave. Just like Amy and Andrew, those algorithms now are effectively economic agents. They create value, they consume value in the economy. And this economy of algorithms is characterized by lifelong partnerships. That means that when we buy a product or a service, that's an entry point for an organization to interact with us for many more years. Mass saturation, wherever we go, they might be able to interact with us through smart assistants, applications on our phones, perhaps screens in our cars, and so on and so on. Those organizations in the economy of algorithms are also experiment intensive. They can run thousands of experiments at any given point in time and understand what might be the better way of serving products or services. Those experiments do not have to be designed. They can be generated by algorithms. And so that's a completely new way of exploring futures of an organization. This expansion of an economy of corporations, economy of people, to economy of algorithms is enabled by a set of phenomena that are right now happening in the digital economy. There are 7 trends that are driving a lot what we're seeing. And let's go through those 7 trends one after another. And I'm going to give you an example each, but I would like you to think about your own organization for each of those trends and think what it means for you. How could this trend be an opportunity or perhaps a challenge for your organization? We're seeing an emergence of completely new value propositions. In the education space, this means that players typically from outside of the education industry, are now coming to that space and are challenging it. Just like Google recently announcing that their 6-month-long courses will be treated in the same way as university degrees. They are basically creating a completely new value proposition around something that they're pretty good at. Delivering those short courses for software developers, for technical experts to learn particular skills. But now they're just as valuable as those that are offered by universities. Often those are free of charge, by the way. So these are those new value propositions. We're also seeing an emergence of completely new channels. We tend to think about interactions with our customers through physical or digital channels, and when we say digital channels, we typically mean a website or perhaps a mobile phone application and so on. But with the emergence of smart assistants and really smart everything, organizations can now reach the customers through all sorts of unexpected channels. As a university ourselves, we are asking ourselves, could we reach out to our students through smart devices and deliver content to our students when they're in the kitchen, when they're in their bedroom, when they're watching TV? Could we sort of enable that sharing of content with our students in completely new ways? And remember, our students are not just undergraduate students or even postgraduate students, but also professionals who might want to just spend a few minutes a day or a few minutes a week with the university. Another trend that we're seeing is completely new styles of interaction. It's not about sitting in front of a screen. It's not even about spending 15 or 30 minutes of completely focused time. Sometimes even if you have 1 or 2 minutes, you can go to your education provider and learn some content by filling up those 1 or 2 minutes of your time. Completely new ways of interacting. We're also seeing completely new types of customers. This is perhaps something that's not yet very obvious for the education industry, but it's clearly obvious for other industries such as retail. We are seeing robots and algorithms becoming customers. Think about smart fridges and smart dishwashers that can now restock themselves. There are dishwashers that can automatically buy dishwashing liquid when they run low on the one that they have inside them. But we're also now seeing robots that are being used at home as helper robots. and they need to actually be taught how to operate in completely new environments. Perhaps I'm stretching it here, perhaps not. This is an education space. Those robots need to learn. Whoever is going to teach them those new skills is going to effectively become an education provider for robots, new types of customers. The next trend is emergence of customers as competition. In the higher education space, we see websites such as spoonfeedme.com.au, where our own students are offering lecture notes to other students. Think about that student that you were studying with who was really good at taking notes. Well, these days, those students can make money by offering those notes on platforms like this one. So our customers are becoming our competition. Or are they? Could we capture that potential that our customers have? Perhaps some of our students are really good at explaining the content that we're teaching. Could we work with them on delivering that value so that everyone's happy and not treating each other as a competition? We're seeing another trend of platforms becoming competition. This is a particularly challenging one for those organizations that are trying to develop a brand recognition, that are trying to be recognized by learners. Platforms are creating their own brands, and then they're bringing together education providers from all over the place to offer the courses. The challenge here is that customers go to the platform, not necessarily to the particular brand that is providing the education content. So the power play is changing a lot in this space. Finally, the seventh trend is employees becoming competition. With all the platforms available around the world, education space is also not immune from employees now deciding, hey, why should I be working for a large organization, a university, a school, or another education provider? I could be delivering content, paid content, educational content to others for a fee. And so there's this emergence of potentially completely new players that might be competing with large organizations in that particular industry. So this is what we're seeing in that space of digitizing and digitalizing. And those digitalized businesses are not just optimizing the operations, just like we talked about the automation of the tasks that are being performed. That's very important, but that's only the first step. Those digitalized businesses are thinking about creating completely new value propositions, completely new channels, completely new types of experiences, dealing with new types of customers, recognizing that their customers can be competition, recognizing that platforms could become competition, and also recognizing that their employees could be competition. And they're trying to create value, completely new value, that is powered and fueled by digitization, but it's really this new entity that would simply not be possible had they not digitized initially. So digitized businesses are a very important part of our economy and very important to be a digitized business. They're really good at sustaining what they do. They're focused on delivery. They're really good at explaining what is happening and understanding themselves. They're very much problem-driven though, so when they see a problem, they're good at fixing it. They're risk-averse because they don't really want to explore too much of the future. They're obsessed about today, what they see right now, and they know what industry they're in. Whereas digitalized businesses, they're focused on transforming. They want to change. They want to explore completely new spaces. They want to discover. They are opportunity-driven, so not just problems, but they're looking for opportunities. They're curious. They might be good at answering questions, but they're much better at asking questions, at creating questions that no one else can ask. Would it be possible if this or that was a new future? They're obsessed about tomorrow. They keep thinking about creating those better futures. And they're industry agnostic. They're very much focusing on their customer and the value that they can provide to them. So with this, I would like you to ask yourselves, are you digitized or are you digitalized? Are you digitizing your business, making it faster, cheaper, leaner, or are you digitalizing your business, trying to reimagine the future and creating a position of advantage and creating an organization that stands out from the crowd? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for having me today. If you'd like to follow our Center for the Digital Economy, feel free to subscribe to our monthly newsletter. Other than that, I wish you a fantastic conference. Thank you for having me.